now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero. It's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, blah, 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 blah. Whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week television station. That's right, BillyCBoxing.com can now be watched. All of our events from the last 15 years, not only this show, which is definitely up there, but a lot of other specials we've done throughout time. So check it out. Go to Ginico USA, GINIKO USA.com for all of the platforms it's on. I know it's on Roku, etc., etc. So sign up. The account is free. And watch us wherever you go. And finally, today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. If you want to get a signed copy, just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com, and I will get you one directly. So, anyway, on today's show, we're going to talk about the fights from last night, the major fights from last night. We're also going to discuss some other fights that are coming up and some quotes. I want to kick off the show with a thought that we are going to go back to from time to time all night. Basically my thoughts, heavyweight division, as goes the heavyweight division, as goes the sport of boxing, we all know. And we got kind of a triple-headed monster, so to speak, in the heavyweight division right now with Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder. We all had dreams of the three of them fighting each other in what Sal always likes to refer to as a round robin. We did get to see one fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, and we were, for all intent and purposes, we were looking forward to the rematch, which was actually ordered by the WBC, but lo and behold, what had come up in between was a humongous contract signed by Tyson Fury to join forces with his team, Frank Warren, and Bob Arum and ESPN, which has put the Deontay Wilder rematch on hold. My point is, Deontay Wilder, all of a sudden, seems to be the odd man out. And we've talked about possibly him making some poor decisions by avoiding the fight and the financial opportunities that were offered to him to fight Anthony Joshua. He seemingly headed in the right direction when he fought Tyson Fury. Did not make the money he anticipated, but sure as you know what, he was going to make some money with the rematch, and now that's on hold. We do know that Anthony Joshua is already scheduled to fight Jarrell Miller in New York. Tyson Fury has not announced his opponent yet, but he will be fighting someone. And the WBC had ordered Dominic Breazeale and Dillian Whyte to fight for the right to fight the winner of Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder too. And now that's not going to happen. So my question is, does Deontay Wilder fight Dominic Breazeale, or does he fight Luis Ortiz, who fought last night? And we'll talk about that in 1 second. But joining me right now to get some of his thoughts is my man, Sal Rocky Senecola. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Bill. How are you today?
Oh, not doing too bad. Still snowbound here North Country can't take it anymore, my man. They don't be surprised if I'm knocking at your door pretty soon, because I'm like, I just can't take it. But we're going to talk about the fights, specifically with the Ortiz fight here in a minute. But what's your thoughts? I mean, we've talked about this several times off air as well. We all feel that Deontay made some poor business decisions, but I think his management is at fault here. I'm not going to blame the fighter. He seems to be the odd man out. What's your thoughts?
Well, it's always been that case in a sense. We talk about the other eras where fighters, I used to say all the time, when fighters want to fight each other, it's usually hard to hold back. But today, you have so many obligatory relationships. What I mean by that is promoters, sanctioning bodies, managers, trainers, fighters, and it's and not to steal. I was listening to a whole dissected analysis of the state of boxing today. I don't know if you caught it. It was on ESPN with Max Kellerman, and pretty much along the lines we talk about, as far as the obligations and the fiduciary trusts each network manager, trainer, promoter has with each other, and of course with the fighter being the principal, and how he's used as the tool, as far as the commodity, as far as what's going to be presented and decided on. And it's just too much. I mean, it really is. It's following the bouncing ball. Look what you were saying earlier. I mean, this one, that one, this didn't happen. You know what? Yeah. Looking back, Deontay Wilder should have fought Anthony Joshua for that so-called $15 million. His life would have been a lot different today, I believe, especially because that fight would have already been done and gone, and possibly the rematch already upon us. But that's not the case. So where are we now? Where are the chips lying, and where do we pick them up, and what do we see? I think that there's going to be a lot of surprises this year in the game of boxing, especially the heavyweight division. But we already know the missteps and the opportunities that have gone the wayside. And it's a shame, because I use my analogy, and you were so right on. The round robin. You've got a trilogy or more of fighters that are more than capable of, let's fight this, let's do this, let's see who the winner could fight with that one. But it's too much. It's like a quadrifolio now, not a round robin.
The thing that sticks in my head right now is the fight last night. Let's talk a little bit about the fight last night. The heavyweight fight. Luis Ortiz fought Christian Hammer on the undercard of Urslandi Lara against Brian Castano. And I'm watching this fight, and I've always been a fan of Luis Ortiz. And he's going to be 40 again this year.
So am I.
Yeah, me too. The thing is as much as I thought that he had a huge chance against Deontay Wilder in the first fight, and certainly had his moments in that fight, and ultimately we all know the outcome. He was stopped. But I thought a rematch at many times. I thought of a rematch being a good move. Last night, I couldn't help but think that because of what's going on with Deontay Wilder not getting his rematch with Tyson Fury, and Anthony Joshua moving on to fight Jarrell Big Baby Miller, and I'm saying to myself, oh, geez, watch. We're going to see a rematch between Luis Ortiz and Deontay Wilder. Somehow he's going to gain the okay from the WBC. And at first, when the fight started, I thought maybe that wouldn't be a bad thing. We'll see if Deontay got any better, could handle the counterpunching ability and boxing ability of Luis Ortiz. I mean, after all, he did just go 12 rounds with Tyson Fury, who's a much better defensive fighter. But as I watched the fight unfold, Sal, I did not think Ortiz, if they get in the ring again, I don't think Ortiz goes very far in the fight. He looked like he lost the step. He was out of gas, it seemed to me, halfway through, although he was landing on Christian-Hammer. Christian-Hammer, to me, represented a guy that, had some abilities, but would not stand up to a guy with supposedly skills that Ortiz had. What was your thoughts? I'm hearing some feedback on your side. Are you have a double speaker going or something? Or
yeah, shoot me 1 minute. Yeah,
okay. Yeah. I we'll see what Sal's got going. But my thought is, I think that Ortiz, although he won, and in case you missed it, he won a unanimous decision against Christian-Hammer, 100-90 twice, 99-91 with the way the judges scored it. A lot of close rounds, depending upon what you go for. But I still thought that he did not look the same as he did. I think he lost the step. What was your thoughts, Sal?
Well, I was looking at the same fight, and those same thoughts were going through my mind. It's often how I say, you've heard me say this, that a lot of the opponents that supposedly Triple G had a hard time with putting away, even though he caused damage on their bodies or eye sockets, whatever it was, no pun intended. Those fighters sometimes will never be the same, or they lost a step. I think Luis Ortiz, who I do like as well, I think also because he reminds me of the old Yankee pitcher, Luis Tiant. Remember Luis Tiant?
Oh, of course, the pitcher, sure.
Yeah. But anyway, Luis Ortiz, I thought he did miss a step. I thought, maybe the Deontay Wilder took one step away from him. Who knows? I don't know. I just don't think that Luis Ortiz had a big chance to come out and show. And he had moments, I thought he was in the fight saying to himself, wow, this is the way the fight that I anticipated against Deontay Wilder should have gone. But then, it didn't follow up to be the closing, or didn't follow up to be the dominance, or put the hurt on his big opponent and a hammer, Christian-Hammer. And, I definitely see that Luis Ortiz, I think he lost a step. And I do see in a rematch that Deontay Wilder, I think, will close the show a little earlier.
Well, the big question that I have for Deontay Wilder is he getting better? Is he learning anything from these last two fights? The draw with Tyson Fury, and of course the exciting win over Luis Ortiz. The truth of the matter is did he learn anything? He fought arguably the top two fighters of his whole career in his last two fights. And, it's going to be interesting to see how he fights in his next fight, because you would think that he didn't learn much from the Ortiz fight when he fought Tyson Fury. But then again, you got to give credit where credit's due. Tyson Fury is one of the best defensive heavyweights out there. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not sure if a rematch with Ortiz would be such a good judge of that, because, like you agreed with me, I think Ortiz clearly lost a step. And no discredit to Christian-Hammer, but I think he clearly lost the step. And he's not the power puncher that the commentators were making him up to be. Yeah, he would break you down, but he's not when we see guys in the heavyweight division like Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, these guys are power punches. They land something flush. You're hitting the canvas. You're getting hurt somewhere, in some way, shape, or form. Ortiz, not so much. I don't think he's a one-punch power guy.
No, not anymore. And
I don't think he ever was. I'm talking about Ortiz. Yeah,
it's not like the one punch closes the show and ends the night. Cumulatively, yeah, he could still do that with the combination. But no, I didn't see the power that supposedly everyone talked about was evident last night. And like I say, I think, would it be a good test for Wilder to see a rematch? Obviously, you and I we're always looking at Wilder to see if he's improved, to see if he's learned something from the prior fight. And I think he had these last two fights to learn a ton of skill set and things like that he could put in his repertoire. But that's wait to be seen. We'll see. But I'm disappointed of the status of where he is right now without having the opportunity for the rematch or the opportunity to fight Anthony Joshua or the opportunity to do anything. And like you said earlier, it seems like he's the odd man out for whatever reason.
We got a super chat from my man Joel, and he wants our thoughts on Castano, which we'll talk about right now. I want to remind everyone we are going to be super chatting off. That sounds like it's not appropriate for this kind of. We're super chatting off today, boys and girls. We got some stuff to basically sell off for the largest super chat. So we'll be getting to that a little bit later. But super chat from Joel about our thoughts on Castano. Appreciate it, Joel. Thank you. Castano last night fought against Urslani Lara as the main event on Showtime, and I liked him. I thought almost the same thing about Urslani Lara as I did about Luis Ortiz. One thing I do like about Lara lately, and I say lately, in his last handful of fights, he's been more of a fighter that's willing to engage, and I think it showcases his skill much better because he's not only able to land shots, he avoids a lot. But Castano, to me, was the aggressor and landing the hard shots. Defensively, he could use some work. The way the judges scored it was so typical. I knew it was going to be this. I said it before the announcement was made. The bottom line was 115, 113. One judge scored it for Castano. One judge scored it 115, 113 for Lara. And then Julie Letterman had it even, 114, 114, calling the fight a draw. Now, whether this opens up for a rematch or not, I'm not sure. But as far as Castano goes, I liked it. I can't say this was a robbery. It was a close fight no matter what. But I scored it 115, 113 for Brian Castano. I thought Castano won the fight. I thought that he was landing the harder, more significant punches, although a lot of the shots that he was throwing seemed to be blocked or deflected from Urslandi Lara. But Lara just didn't land anything really, really hard. He did get in a couple of good uppercuts that did score. But once again, I have to question judges today, Sal. Do they really score for the body work? Because I thought Castano worked the body perfectly. He took off from working the body in the middle rounds, but then came back to it. And the beginning and the end of the fight, I was leaning towards Castano. That's why I had the edge. Interesting enough, all three judges had Urslandi Lara winning the last three rounds, which I thought Castano clearly won the 12th round. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought he won the 12th round. And it was a close fight, very competitive fight, and I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch. And it was a very good fight. Lara, I thought at times he missed some opportunities. He definitely, Castano was definitely the aggressor. I like the fact they're both willing to engage and stay in the pocket and move their head, be defensive where they could, but also be in a position to deliver a punch. It was a good fight, good solid fight.
I just to follow up with Joel's super chat, I like Castano. I hope they have a rematch, and I want to see more of them. Also, we did already talk about the Ortiz fight, but also on that card, Eduardo Ramirez, who was looking like he was heading for a loss, scored a 9th round stoppage over Brian De Gracia for the WBA's gold featherweight. Here we go with the gold featherweight title again. He was clearly down on two of the official judges' scorecards. I had him down, but came out with the win. 50 seconds left in the 9th round. Just goes to show you, Sal, it ain't over till it's over. Ramirez improves to 22 wins and 1 loss with 3 draws, and 9 of his wins coming by knockout. And De Gracia drops the second fight of his career. He's now 24-2-1 with 20 of his wins coming by knockout. Some other fights I just want to mention real quick, specifically in the heavyweight division that took place. In Germany, they had a card featuring a lot of young heavyweights. The 2 top fighters on that card, Ajit Kabayel, improved to 19-0 with 13 knockouts when he scored a 12-round unanimous decision over Andrei Rudenko, who loses for only the 4th time in his career. Rudenko drops to 32-4 with 20 of his wins coming by knockout. 116-111, 117-110, 119-108, all in favor of Kabayel. Also on that card, Tom Schwartz scored a second-round knockout over Christian Kristatic to improve to 24-0 with 16 knockouts. The end came at 2 minutes and 55 seconds of the second round. Krastic drops to 17-2. And over in Ohio, Columbus, if you will, Junior Fa scored a first-round knockout over Nufiel Otua at 2 minutes and 51 seconds of the first round. Hit the canvas. Otua hit the canvas 4 times to drop to 16-3. Speaking of that card, I found it kind of strange. I had a couple of observations, Sal. I found it kind of strange last night. Now, Lou DiBella was the promoter of record for the Showtime event, which saw the Ortiz fight and Castano fight. He was also the promoter for the Junior Fa fight. And that fight was in Ohio. He was actually trying to offer that as a online pay-per-view type of a thing. But he sat at the ringside at his other fight in New York at the Barclays Center. I don't know if you noticed him, but he was dressed kind of like Geppetto from Pinocchio. I don't know what he's trying to do, but I was waiting for Pinocchio to make an appearance. I mean, Lou DiBella doing his best dress impersonation of Geppetto from Pinocchio. But I don't know if you noticed this, Sal. There was hardly any advertising on the ring yesterday. If you go back and look at it, usually the corner posts are usually sold. The red corner and blue corner were both blank, as were the ropes. Usually the ropes have a sponsor on them. Now, I noticed this stuff because I say to myself, number one, if you don't sell it, generally the promoter puts his own stamp on there, DiBella Entertainment or whatever. I found that strange. I wonder if there was an underlying reason. Did you notice that, or am I just looking at things I shouldn't?
You always see Tecate, you see this, you see that, and I also observed that there was no real sponsorship endorsing or putting their logo, their name out there. And then, you would think that it would refer back to the promoter, but it didn't do that either. So, I don't know. Let's look into that.
We got my man Joel. He's in a spending mood. He just gave us a super chat. He wants me to give him the weather report. We got snow yesterday. I got probably, believe it or not, almost 3 feet on the ground still. That's not going away. Yeah. He's getting another storm today down in southern New York, and he's supposed to be getting 5 to 7. And
I think we're getting 70 degrees over here.
Yeah, I know. We're supposed to get the same, Joel. But thanks. Save some of your money for the stuff we're going to give away, Joel. I have a feeling you're going to like it. But in any event, all kidding aside, this show wouldn't be able to go around if we didn't get the super chats from guys like Joel. So I appreciate it very much. I noticed that, Sal. It was kind of strange to me that we didn't have, or they didn't have, more stuff sold in terms of sponsorship. And again, little things like that I noticed because I do these events, and it's something that is very important to the success of a show, to have corporate sponsorships behind you. You know, and all kidding aside, I mean, they had 3 good fights on the card, evenly matched fights, I thought. Even the Ortiz fight, I know at first I thought maybe it was going to be a one-sided showcase fight for Ortiz, but Hammer had other ideas. I just found it strange. I can't recall the last time that I watched a fight where at least the red and blue corners had some writing on the corner post pads. I can't recall it, Sal.
No, I'll tell you what, I understand, and you are correct.
Hey, maybe they should have put Lou DiBella's photo of his I'm gonna dress like Geppetto from Pinocchio outfit that he had on. Maybe we should get him in one of your acting gigs, you know, as Geppetto. Did you ever think of maybe having Lou DiBella as Geppetto and you know, somebody play Pinocchio? I don't know. I mean, I know you know, with a boxer's nose, you wouldn't really want to play Pinocchio, would you?
Not me, no. But you know, it's like the Godfather would always say. You know, he said, "I never wanted to have this for you, Michael. Santino, I knew he'd have to do this way. Fredo,
yeah, well, he's Geppetto.
You have all the strings.
Yeah, that's what he's going to be doing, is pulling strings. But
well, that's
anyway,
it. You're a puppeteer or you're a puppet.
Well,
and that's where the sanctioning bodies have you. You're the puppeteer or you're the puppet.
Well, the thing with Lou, though, is he was the promoter. Why didn't he put his own name on there? If he wants to dress... Hey, listen, you know, a lot of times these guys dress a little far out just so you can, you know, they could draw attention, and he certainly did. But Pinocchio? Geppetto? I don't know. Sal, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're scheduled to have Dax Kahn join us. We'll get his thoughts on the fights from last night and... what our topic is today. Is Deontay Wilder the odd man out with the triple-headed world champion view of the heavyweight division? We'll find out in about 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. Hey, don't forget, you can catch us 24/7 on any handheld device that you have or your television. Just check us out on our new television station, 24/7, Billy C. Boxing. All the information and all of the places you can watch it can be found on Ginico USA. That's GINIKO USA.com. Sign up. It's for free. And take us with you. It's more than just this show, guys. It's a bunch of other stuff, some great fights, too. And we will be auctioning off, I guess that's a good way, some stuff a little bit later today via Super Chat. So you got to be watching or listening live. Joining us right now, live, is my man Dax Kahn. Good morning, Dax.
Good morning, Billy C.
How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing.
What's the matter? Sick of the snow or what?
Yeah, yesterday I woke up in the morning, the snow was going, and then it disappeared by noon.
Yeah, well, that's the difference between a couple of hours south of me. It leaves quickly down there. Here, it doesn't go away. I'm going to have it in June, I think. But anyway.
You can have it in June.
Yeah, no. It's not like I want it. Let me rephrase that. I'm going to be stuck with it in June. But anyway, hey, first and foremost, let's talk about the fights last night. Castano or Lara ends up in a draw. I could see it. I don't think it was a robbery or anything. I kind of leaned towards Castano in this fight. I thought that he landed the harder punches. No disrespect to Lara, who did display great defense. How did you see the fight?
Well, Lara, this is kind of the story of his career. He can't seem to get a clean loss or a clean win when it comes to these big fights. It's either, some sort of controversy or happens to be a split decision. Whether it's a split decision loss last night, split decision draw. But, Lara does that to himself a lot, in my opinion, because of his style. He's very accurate, but again, he runs a lot. Sometimes he gets those moments of lulls, and he's not really exciting to the judges. You have to really be sitting there just watching Lara to appreciate his overall boxing ability rather than go there and look for him to, to actually stand out in a fight. And I think that's what hurts him in these big fights. Last night, obviously his legs are not what they used to be. He's fighting off the ropes a lot, but he was accurate. He was crafty. I think Brian Castano, that's a place he's never been before, but Castano, credit to him, he continuously pressured Lara. He wasn't as accurate, but he was certainly the stronger fighter. I think that at this division, it's not quite right for Castano. At 5'6" in a division where these super welterweights are monsters. These are guys that walk around as light heavyweights when they're out in the street. So what's next for him? I don't know. He's going to sit there and just be another one of those belt holders with that WBA secondary belt, as Mauro Ranallo likes to call it, which is more or less a top 5 contender belt. As for Lara, he's definitely kind of reached the end of his career, in my opinion, Bill. I think maybe he has 1 or 2 more fights in him, but if he continues going on, at least at junior middleweight, I think if he gets in there again, one of these other champions, he's going to just continuously decline, and that's going to be in my opinion, is going to be tragic, because if Lara ends his career on a knockout, then, it's kind of going to set the whole tone of what he's going to be looked at in the future, a guy who could never get over that big hurdle, even though for a long time he was the longest reigning champion.
I think a rematch with Castano would be justified, and it would be a good fight for Lara because, as you mentioned, some of these monsters in this division are just too physically big for him. I think you made a great point. His legs aren't where they used to be, and I don't know if I need to look at his legs starting to fail him because of age, or if we need to give Castano more credit for cutting the ring off. Because in the fight last night, to be honest with you, Dax, I haven't seen somebody control cutting the ring off as effectively as Castano did. Every time Lara tried to move, it seemed that Castano was positioning him right where he wanted. Was it a failure of Lara's legs, or was it good ring generalship from Castano?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think Castano showed, good ring generalship. But again, if this was the Lara of even 4 fights ago, it wouldn't have been as easy. Castano wouldn't have been able to do that. So it was a combination of the both. Castano, remember, he's only got now, I think this is his 15th pro fight. He has time. He, had a great amateur career. He just needs a different trainer to kind of, round him out a little bit, settle him down, and make his aggressiveness more effective. A more controlled aggression. When I was looking at him last night, I kept saying to myself, this kid kind of reminds me in a way like, Sean Porter, just a little bit less active than Sean Porter.
The thing is that's a good analogy. I was trying to put my finger on it, and the way he delivers his punches, everything seemed, crisp and hard, almost like a Ray Beltran. You know how Ray Beltran lands his punches kind of hard, like every punch he throws is kind of hard for him? It seemed like that to me with Castano last night. But Luis Ortiz, in a fight that, I got to be honest, no discredit to Christian Hammer, I just didn't think it was going to be as difficult. Did we see Ortiz age in front of us? Because remember, he just turned 40 again.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, ever since the Wilder fight, we've seen Ortiz age. Even though since Wilder, he's had those 2 stoppage wins over Razvan Kanjano and Travis Kaufman. But, the Kaufman fight, that was went late into the fight, around 10. Hammer, there's nothing really special about him. In the past, every time he stepped up, he's lost, and lost horribly. You would have thought, even at 39, that Luis Ortiz at least would have had an easier time outboxing him. But Hammer, he didn't really seem bothered by the power of Luis Ortiz, except for a couple times, and they were body shots. And you made up a great point before on how the broadcast team was kind of selling Luis Ortiz's power, like, he was this one-stop killer. But I think even that there is not what it used to be. Luis Ortiz was tired at times. When he wasn't tired, he would move around and he would just flick that jab, but he wasn't really setting anything up. He doesn't seem to be able to get off more than 2 punches at a time. So this is definitely a case where it's the aging of Ortiz that made this a more dreadful affair than what it needed to be. And, credit to Christian Hammer that, he came over here for the first time and, he didn't fold. He certainly didn't come here to be an opponent.
Which leads us into one of my main topics today, and Deontay Wilder. I almost couldn't help as the fight was going on, and I was noticing the same things you were pointing out about the possibility of Ortiz aging, et cetera, and then looking at how the landscape of the three-headed dragon, if you will, the top 3 heavyweights of the division, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder. We know Anthony Joshua's fighting Miller. Fury, it looks like they're setting him up to fight Kubrat Pulev, should Pulev be successful in his fight coming up. Dominic Breazeale was scheduled to fight, according to the WBC, was scheduled to fight Dillian White for the right to fight the winner of Wilder Fury 2. But now, since Fury isn't doing that fight, are we going to see Wilder against Ortiz? And has Wilder's management made him the odd man out? What's your thoughts on that whole picture?
Deontay Wilder, I think he could have been the guy fighting Jarrell Miller. And even though Jarrell Miller, we know, more or less talked himself into this title shot with Anthony Joshua, two domestic heavyweights, one a belt holder and the other one in the top 10 would be good for the sport here because, as we know, boxing, especially heavyweight boxing, is lacking attraction here in the United States. And Anthony Joshua coming over here and fighting Jarrell Miller and selling out the Garden in record time, it speaks of who the draw is. Now, I have been adamant in stating on this show many times that Anthony Joshua, Bill, is just as much at fault as Deontay Wilder is when it comes to that negotiations. If I was going to compare it, it's kind of like Roy Jones and Joe Calzaghe, where somebody doesn't want to fight somebody, and they're both the top dogs, and you want to know who it is, but for some reason these guys just refuse to get it on when both are capable of going to either place. Now, Joshua, being the A side, so to speak, you think that he would want to be the one who, much like Lennox Lewis, to say, you know what, I am the king of this division, and if you're not going to believe me, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to show you on your home ground. When this topic, I was thinking about, the last two most dominant champions, Lennox Lewis and Vladimir Klitschko. Lewis fought in Canada, the U.S., Ireland, the United Kingdom. He fought in Carnival City. Vladimir Klitschko, the U.K., the U.S., Germany, Russia, South Africa, Ukraine, Switzerland. Mike Tyson even fought in Copenhagen, the United States, of course. He fought in Tokyo. The list goes on and on. This is what a genuine heavyweight champion of the world is supposed to do. And I think whether or not it was Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua, I think the guy that could actually solidify themselves as the heavyweight champion, no matter who has the majority of the belts, is the guy that's willing to go abroad and fight.
Well, I think, listen, regardless of who's, just to get back to Anthony Joshua being just as at fault, it's hard to deny that. But when you look at the dollars and cents, because after all, this is prize fighting, and most of these guys will always, when push comes to shove, it boils down to the dollars and cents. And if you look at the last couple of fights, when the deal was offered to Deontay Wilder to fight Anthony Joshua, basically they offered him $20 million, 15 to fight Anthony Joshua after he got to pick whoever he wanted to fight with for $5 million. There's his $20 million, and then they guaranteed him, which had not been negotiated yet, a second fight with Anthony Joshua, regardless of who won the first, like a home and home. One would be in England, one would be in the U.S. And he scoffed at it, and he turned it down, and then we got into that 50-50, and they both ended up walking away. If you look back at that offer that was on the table, on paper, and you look at where both fighters stand today financially with the fights, Anthony Joshua is fighting Jarrell Miller, which nobody thinks that Miller has a chance against Anthony Joshua. He's gonna walk away with his $20 million, $25 million that he's gonna get. We still don't really know the total amount of money that Wilder made against Tyson Fury, but rumor has it was somewhere around $4 million. When all was said and done, the pay-per-view buys were lower than anticipated. Now, even a rematch with Ortiz, could he equal that $15 million? That's where I'm looking at right now, Dax. I'm saying to myself, here's a guy that is going to be forced to fight a Luis Ortiz or even a Dominic Breazeale, and the financial gain is not going to be there because he's not the draw of an AJ. AJ's making $25, $30 million to fight Miller. Who knows what Fury's going to make? That was my point.
Yeah, well, in terms of just prize fighting and in terms of money, then yes, Deontay Wilder is hurting himself. And nobody else. He's hurting himself, win, lose, or draw. And we know that there would have been more than one fight. But, in terms of the mentality, I guess, to say, of a champion is, why should I be the guy to collapse in? I am making decent money. I'm not making his type money, but I'm making decent money. And, the two things in the sport that we always see go wrong over the last, several years or 10 years, you want to say, is the marinating. I don't know if somebody somewhere is thinking that, they're waiting until this fight grows beyond a Mayweather and Pacquiao type fight in terms of revenue, or it's just that No, neither guy just, out of ego, they just don't want to cave in. And Anthony Joshua, knowing that over in the UK especially, he can draw in those 90,000 fans no matter who he fights. If he would have fought a Christian Hammer, he'd bring in, at least 70,000 fans. And, he's happy sitting there and collecting his money. Now, what are you fighting for? Are you fighting for money or are you fighting for legacy? And that's what seems to hurt the sport. And that, as long as you're making the money, why fight for the legacy? But, the two guys I named before, they did both. They fought for money and they fought for legacy. If you fight around the world, and that goes for whether or not it's Anthony Joshua, whether or not it's Deontay Wilder, and you perform just as well around that world, that money's going to build. That's how Mike Tyson did it. That's how Klitschko's did it. And that's how, all the other fighters, Lennox Lewis did it. Now, remember, Vladimir Klitschko against Anthony Joshua, because of Vladimir Klitschko, that broke the most views in history of any fight because of Vladimir Klitschko. And people out there, no, it did not go. Remember, again, I always stress it's a worldwide, and look around the world and what those numbers were.
Well, the thing was about that, Dax, is it was definitely Klitschko. It was the combination, Klitschko and Anthony Joshua, the curiosity fact. Many people did not give. Listen, I'm a fan of Anthony Joshua, but he didn't officially arrive until he beat Klitschko, in my opinion. Klitschko was the solidification that he was indeed, matching the hype that had around him. But, hey, I got a question for you. My man Joel must have hit the lotto over the weekend. He's given us a super chat, and this one is directed to you, Dax. He wants to know what your thoughts are of Ajit Kabiel, who just won his fight over the weekend over Rudenko. What's your thoughts about him as a heavyweight? Where do you think he goes from here? They've been moving him pretty well. Him and Tom Schwartz, who was also on that card, two undefeated German heavyweights. What's your thoughts on KBL?
Decent. I don't think anything special of them. I actually think that the top three guys are so good that everybody else in that division is an also-ran, and the only guy in that division that I'm really keeping my eye on that I think can come in there and shake up the apple cart when he gets another 4 or 5 fights, that's Triple D, Daniel Dubois.
And yeah, we're gonna get to see Daniel Dubois. I don't know.
Next week.
Yeah, next week. This is the problem, Dax, and you just hit it right on the head. The issue here is if you take these guys, the Ajit Kabiels and Tom Schwartz and Daniel Dubois and some of the other young heavyweights, and even if he was moved correctly, a guy like Jarrell Miller in this position, what I'm about to say, and some of these young fighters, Dillian White, et cetera, et cetera. If they were fighting each other like we got in the great eras of the heavyweight division, when you had the dance partners, and the truth is that they are viable dance partners if they're fighting each other. What would happen is the best of these young heavyweights would rise to the top, and then you would see them, after they fought these other guys, presumably getting better and better. And when they did fight one of the top 3 heavyweights that we have now, it would be more of a challenge. But the road and the path to getting a world title shot today would get a guy like a Kabiel or Tom Schwartz or any other, Daniel Dubois, all these kinds of fighters, get them W's, and then all of a sudden throw them in there with one of these top guys as the payoff. And then they don't stand a chance. Do you think that the heavyweight division would be even more solid and need I even be afraid to say one of the best divisions of the times if these younger fighters actually fought each other instead of their promoters, managers, whoever, protecting them from the tough fights?
Well, I think it's several things. One, as you mentioned, yes, obviously we see more and more of that no matter what the division is. Secondly, the top names, well, we'll say the top 3 guys in Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and Anthony Joshua, or actually, I'll throw Dillian White in there, even though he has lost to Joshua, they're so far above the other guys. You know, they're levels above the other guys. And we have some of the older guys, like a Povetkin, who was good for a very long time, on his way out. So these younger guys fighting each other, these prospects, that would certainly, you know, bring this division up levels and into more of a broader scope worldwide, rather than just focusing on a couple fighters. And we haven't had that in a very long time. The 1990s is the last time we had something like that. But, you know, even if you go say, you know, the great divisions of the past, like the 70s, you know, when you had guys like Ernie Shavers and Ron Lyle, and you had guys in there that were always willing to fight the top names. They're willing to fight each other. It didn't matter who it was. They went in there and they gave their all, and that's why, you know, you focused on it, because every fight was a great fight. What makes great fights is proper matchmaking. What doesn't make great fights and doesn't help careers in terms of legacy, only financial sense, is when you're putting guys that you know are 3 levels below in there against the champion to make the champion look good. And that's, you know, more or less where boxing has come. And I was kind of surprised where, you know, you mentioned before and how, well, it makes sense in terms of financially for Anthony Joshua to do this, or financially for Deontay Wilder to do that. But on the other hand, Bill, you complain all the time because of a certain guy, I'm not going to mention his name, did a lot of things financially to benefit him. These guys are doing the exact same thing. Wrong is wrong.
No, listen, the point is, you're right. I disagree with the financial, you know, the focus on the financial. But be as it may, these guys are limited. Now, the person you're referring to takes it a step further. I mean, we're talking about real fights here. We're talking about a real fight, regardless of who thinks whichever fighter would win. Deontay Wilder against Anthony Joshua, or even the rematch between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, deserves some money. I mean, these guys deserve the money. But at which point do you walk away? I mean, my point that I threw out before was, if you look at the last 2 fights, or even the 3 fights, if you're going to include that, you know, Anthony Joshua does not need either one of these guys, as long as he's still pulling in $25 million every time he steps into the ring against whoever. And you made the great point that he'll sell out 90,000 seats if it's against Christian Hammer. It doesn't matter. He's still going to make his $25 million. So he's in the driver's seat. Can Tyson Fury make $25 million every time he steps out? Maybe. Who knows? I don't think so if you didn't have the right dance partner. Same thing with Deontay Wilder. They need each other to make the big bucks. The marination process of these fights are ruining the sport, and it's trickling down to ruin the young fighters, because their management teams want to protect them from each other so that they don't miss out on a potential opportunity with one of the top 3. There's where I see the long-term problems, Dax.
You know, thinking about on the guys that could just fight each other right now, you know, I'm just looking at a list of the heavyweights. And any of these fights, Bill, taking away Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and Dillian White, any of these fights, in my opinion, would be a good fight. Luis Ortiz against Pulev, Brazil against Konaki, Rivas against Schwartz, Joseph Parker against Cable, or against Miller. You know, any of these guys, if they just stay busy and they would all fight each other, this division would certainly, you know, be levels above. And again, exciting, proper matchmaking makes for great fights. One of the best fights I ever seen in my life wasn't between 2 A-list guys. It was an ESPN fight, and that was, I believe it was Delvin Rodriguez against Paul Wallach when they had their wars on ESPN. So, you know, proper matchmaking is what makes great fights, but right now it just seems the sport is focused on money, and it's focused on whatever names can bring in the money instead of creating a bigger brand. And I continue to say that's the difference in boxing, and that's the difference in the UFC, and why people get mad. Why is the UFC taking over? Even boxing is going on the UFC stream channel. Why? Because everybody else is doing it right. They want to sit there and do everything as a complete whole, and all, whether or not I can't say so much the fighters, but whatever promoters they have, they're all trying to do their own league and only sitting there trying to keep their fighters in a certain small little circle to see who can make the most money, and it's hurting everybody in the end.
You know, professional baseball is going to be starting soon. I know you don't care, but I'm going to make a baseball analogy. The heavyweight division today, a lot of the heavyweights and their teams are looking to win the fight with that home run. So they're setting their fighters up for the home run. the guys that win, the successful baseball teams that win, generally the home run isn't what's doing it. Hits are what's doing it. Bunch of singles. And I think the analogy I'm trying to point out is if they did exactly what we're talking about, fought each other, not only would they become better, but they would build the brand. You mentioned the brand and everything. The sport itself would become more solid. These guys are hitting for that. They're all looking for that home run, that one big money-making fight, and let's let the chips fall as they will. They're not trying to build the lifelong fan. I've talked about this many, many times. You know, we have been lifelong fans of the sport of boxing because when we got hooked, we were watching the eras that we still talk about today. The young fans of today are watching this. If they get hooked because they're interested, how long will the interest stay when they'll be able to determine who's going to win a fight quicker than, you know, people of yesteryear? I mean, how many times did you watch a fight as a kid where you had no idea? You might have been rooting for one side, but it wasn't a layup fight. You know, today it's a shocker when the A side, and we even have that. We even have that defined. When the A side loses, it's a shocker to the fans.
Yeah, and it's not really that big of a shocker. You know, speaking of, the other day I was watching on Gineco TV, I was watching some of our replays on there, and there was one on there, I think it was after one of the Austin Trout fights. I had predicted, I said, well, in a couple fights, Charlo was going to lose that belt, and 2 fights later, he loses it to Tony Harris, and not saying that, you know, I'm some sort of fortune teller. It's just that you can see the pattern going along, that eventually one of these judges are going to go against them, or, you know, eventually that, you know, you're not going to have the guy that's out there that really, you know, cares so much about what the promoter wants or cares so much about what that next assignment he's going to have, and what's going to happen is the guy's going to lose and everybody's going to cry foul. Now all of a sudden, you know, Charlo last night, when you sat there and you looked at when they were talking about the 154-pound division, he was just mentioned briefly, as he was almost forgotten by the broadcast team. He was mentioned as another one of those guys that are in there. You know, and Tony Harrison, he was also kind of mentioned as another one of those guys that are in there, just because that WBC title, due to that careful picking and choosing, has kind of lost its appeal at 154 pounds, and very much because of the way how you're explaining it. You know, they're only concentrating on one thing. They're trying to build one guy up and make him the most money, but they're not trying to build the brand. The Charlos, their whole brand was built around the undefeated record. Now that he has lost, you know what? He's just an also-ran when it comes to their opinion, because he's not going to generate that much money once that loss is gone, you know, since that loss is, you know, now not there anymore. And that's what we're going to see happen more and more to the fighters. And as the fans start being able to pick up on this, you know, as soon as he faces X or XYB, he's going to lose. Or if he doesn't face XYB, we know it's because he's being protected, and fans are going to turn away from that. And we see that more in the United States, and that's why, again, and I keep saying all the time, boxing in the UK and boxing in Japan and other parts of the country are so much bigger than they are here. The United States is under this delusion that the United States is boxing. The United States is not boxing.
I hear you. I've always said England carries the sport on their back. But Dax, great job as usual, and we'll be looking forward to you next week. We got some great fights to talk about next week.
All right, everybody, enjoy the day.
That's my man Dax Kahn. Check out his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. All right, like I said, we're going to take a short break here. We're scheduled to have Alex Papali join us. But like I had said earlier, we are going to auction off, if you will, some stuff. The first thing today is your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. This is the same game that Alex does his simulations with. It's not a video-oriented game, although there is video. It's not, the graphics aren't set up, but it is one of the best games you could take and put a superstar fighter of yesteryear in with a current fighter, set parameters. Are they fighting in their normal division? Who their trainers are? It's very cool, and it's extremely accurate when it comes to putting some of the fighters against each other today, and then to go ahead and see the outcome. I will give you your very own copy. We are taking a commercial break right now, so the highest super chat that we can get right now, the highest super chat that we can get will get you your copy, and I will pick one when we're done with the break. So right now on the line, your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game. Super Chats, highest one right now. Do it. We'll be back in about 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Have osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Addiction.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And, all right, well, joining us again right now is my man Sal Rocky Senecola. I guess Alex, he's no with us today, but we got my man Sal back. And Sal, we just gave away our first prize, I should say, or basically our first super chat prize. I don't know what verbiage I should use, but in that case, the winner was my man Johnston, who sent us a super chat and was the highest one. He also threw in a question. He wants to know, and this is a good question. He wants to know, do we consider Tyson Fury to still be the lineal heavyweight champion because he's never lost in the ring and he was the linear champion? His opinion is that he thinks it should be vacant until we have a undisputed heavyweight champion. First and foremost, I want to thank Johnston, and I will email you, Johnston. I have Johnston's email. I will send him the information for his title bout game. Sal, what do you think? Do you think that Tyson Fury should still be considered the linear champ?
You know, it's amazing because we saw him retire. We saw him struggle back. Not struggle. I mean, get back in the ring, lose the weight, do this and that. And, yes, he came right back and he fought Deontay Wilder to a draw. And I don't know, Bill. I tell you the truth. I'm not all for these linear or these sub-world champion belts and all that. I'm not really that big on all that.
Well, you know, the linear title really, you're right. First of all, to have all the belts is a joke to begin with. The linear title came out, tracing it back, the guy who beat the guy. And you trace it all the way back to John L. Sullivan. And you could do that, and eventually, Tyson Fury was the linear champ. No one beat him in the ring. There was a draw, but no one has beaten him in the ring. But, I think that the value of that linear championship has gone away. Well, let me change that. I don't think it's gone away. I think it's just hard to follow these days, the way the titles and that whole champion is so split up in multiple ways. I mean, now we're dealing with a gold belt. Think about it. We got the world. We got a super world champion, a regular world champion, a gold world champion, an interim world champion, a champion of Muay Thai, a champion in recess, a champion with a hurt fingernail, a champion. Everybody's a champion. And then, oh, by the way, we have the linear championship. I don't think Tyson Fury is considered a linear champion. I feel that when a fighter retires, when they say they retire. Now, we go all the way back to James Jeffries. James Jeffries, when he retired and the belt was won by someone else, and then Jack Johnson eventually won the title. And then when they had the fight, when James Jeffries finally fought Jack Johnson, they were saying that was really for the title because it was James Jeffries' title that he never lost in the ring. I think once a fighter retires, utters those words, whether he comes back again or not, he relinquishes any title that he has, including a linear title. So to answer Johnston's question, my opinion is that Tyson Fury has no titles. He's got zilch. And I also agree that the only way to award a linear title is if someone ends up with with the title of undisputed. That's my thought. So, I'm with Johnston on that. What do you think?
Well, my thoughts, Bill. I'm going to concur. I think it's all chaos. I think it's all redundant. I think it's all pathetic, the state of boxing and these belts and these sanctioning bodies and these creations. I mean, I lost when I was active, and I heard of an intercontinental championship belt. I mean, how is that different or supersede world championship belt or whatever? Intercontinental. Hey, well, that's a pretty neat new name. I mean, they could think of a title and a name and boom, designated for a belt, and there you go. It's bull. It's bull. Borrow it again from Ray Mancini. There's one world. Why can't there be one title belt?
The reason why all the titles have come into play is because the promoters, I said this several years ago, promoters don't promote anymore. Managers don't manage. Fighters don't fight. I mean, it's the craziest stuff. But a promoter and a television network today, they don't feel they can successfully promote an event unless there's a belt on the line. And that's what fuels these sanctioning bodies. and most fans that if they're not a diehard fan, they don't know the difference between a belt. They see a guy coming walking out. Even who was it? The young fighter last week, the heavyweight, comes out and he says, "Oh, I have all these belts. I need extra people." And he doesn't even have a world title yet. I mean, he's become the gold heavyweight champion. That kid that's now going to fight Manuel Char. I have so many belts now. Yeah, so many belts. Not one of them's a world title, but everybody has it. But it's a joke. Speaking of jokes, have you seen that this feud between Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather is opened up again, Sal? And
I wish they'd get back in the ring.
The funny thing is really these two guys should get back in the ring. Floyd's going to be 42 years old, and Oscar's, I don't even know how old he is. But the way they go at each other, it all stemmed from this. Apparently, now Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions has Ryan Garcia signed to them. He's an up-and-coming fighter. He's that tall kid that has a long way to go in my opinion, but the dream fight people are already talking about is him against Tank Davis, and even though we would like to see Tank Davis against other fighters, this is a name that's being thrown out there. Well, according to several reports, Floyd Mayweather actually came and offered a fight to Ryan Garcia to fight his, meaning Floyd's, one of his young up-and-coming fighters, Rolando Romero. And he said, basically, if Garcia fights Rolando Romero and wins, he'll give him a shot at Gervonta Davis. Well, Oscar got PO'd about that, Sal, and says that there's proper ways, and this is a quote from Oscar, he says, there's a proper ways of making fights. Look, you don't go out there publicly. He says the proper way is you send a contract, you take a look at it, and we talk about it. That's what real promoters do. And apparently he has issued a cease and desist letter to Floyd Mayweather and Mayweather Promotions. The funny thing is that I kind of, as much as I think that it's a tit for tat type of a situation, I agree with Oscar here. Floyd has always acted like he's above the rules, and a lot of times, sanctioning bodies and television networks and other fighters, et cetera, have caved into Floyd. I think that I think that Oscar De La Hoya is right. I think that if you're going to wear a promoter's hat, and I don't even know for sure if Floyd Mayweather actually holds a promoter's license. Somebody in Mayweather Promotions does, but whether Oscar is really a promoter or not, he needs to follow. Floyd is a real promoter or not. He needs to follow the rules. What's your thoughts?
Of course, I think he should follow the rules. I think everybody should abide by the rules. That's why they're in place, so you don't deviate and make your own rules and conform to have the rules conform to you instead of you conform to the rules. So it's like I said, it's a bad state, and the benchmark has been lowered, and it's constantly moving the goalpost and everything else. It really is. It's bad. When I think of all the belts and all the rhetoric and all the things diced up, like we're talking about Tyson Fury. Hey, guess what? The old adage saying was, you got a belt, you got a title, you got 6 months to defend it against the #1 contender for that title, and you're not there. Boom, you're no longer the champ. You vie for it elsewhere. He retired. How long he retired for? 3 years, 4 years?
Who, Tyson Fury?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost 3 years.
Right. After 6 months, he should have lost that title. That title should have been up for somebody else to get.
No, but there is none. Listen, it used to be the ring belt. Okay, it used to be the linear title. You can connect to the ring belt. Okay, the ring championship. But that kind of went out the window when Golden Boy Promotions bought the Ring magazine. And at first it seemed legit, but then over a short period of time, within a couple of years, listen, when they wouldn't strip Canelo of it, when he was fighting in the middleweight belt, when they still let Canelo say he was the ring champion, even though he had fought in other divisions and had to draw with Triple G. I mean, I lost all respect for the ring belt. There is no the guy who beat the guy, which is a linear championship, is legit until a fighter says, I quit, I retire, I'm doing other things, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. They can't decide to come back a month later or 10 years later and expect to still have the belt. I'm sorry, Sal. When you retire, it's over.
You retire. You say goodbye. You say goodbye to the game. You say goodbye to the belt. That's what I'm saying. You should have a 6-month period to defend that title or claim you're the owner of that title and make a defense. And the bottom line is you retire, you're saying goodbye to boxing, you're saying goodbye to the world, you're saying goodbye to the training, the way you would be regimenting your life and focusing and putting the blinders on, and you are opening the door for other opportunities. Well, why can't other opportunities exist with what you once had? You're being replaced. So, you know what, after 6 months and you're retired, that window and that door has closed, and it's open fodder for everybody else.
You're right. No, I'm with you. Speaking of Canelo, yeah, your favorite fighter. You were telling me off air before. I know. I'm letting the cat out of the bag. It's everybody thinks it's Deontay Wilder. Nay, it's Canelo. But Canelo Alvarez and Daniel Jacobs have went on their press conference tour this past week. They are fighting on Cinco de Mayo weekend. Saturday, May 4th in Las Vegas. It will be available on the Zone Network, part of the, I guess, $300 million plus deal Canelo signed with the Zone. They offered, they gave a package to Daniel Jacobs, almost telling him basically he has no chance of beating Canelo unless he should knock Canelo out, which he does have a chance of doing. I love Daniel Jacobs. I thought that, the people that thought that he beat Triple G, I didn't agree with that, but he has gotten better. Yes. He is in very good shape. His suspect chin, I think, is people have left that rumor away because of him going the distance with Triple G and actually getting up off the canvas. This press conference has been pretty professional, unlike some of the other press conferences featuring fighters that seemingly like to promote fights by getting a little outrageous. This particular fight is going to be a quality fight. We all know that. We have two top-notch fighters, but the press conferences have been kind of controlled. The one thing I don't like is that they're allowing Canelo Alvarez to maintain two world titles in two different weight classes. I don't like that. They had made that a rule that it was not possible that once a fighter won a second title in a different weight class that they had X amount of time to relinquish one of the belts, and they've extended Canelo Alvarez to let him make a decision after this fight, which I think is wrong. But Canelo Alvarez had some quotes. I'll give them to you, Sal, and get your thoughts. He says, we'll do what we always do to prepare ourselves to the fullest. We'll eat tainted beef. Oh, no, he didn't say that. He says, we will stay away from cheeseburgers. No, he says, we'll give the fans a great fight. This is not going to be an exception. We're going to come out with our hands raised high. We know his style is going to be difficult. He's a complicated fighter, but at this level, that's what you got to face. We're prepared. We're going to train. We're going to work. We're going to do whatever. We're going to work for whatever he's going to bring. Anything can happen in boxing. We'll go in there looking for the knockout, but we're going to prepare for 12 rounds, expecting the unexpected. We're ready to fight Daniel Jacobs. Before I read Danny's quotes, what's your thoughts on Canelo Alvarez? Seems pretty scripted, no?
Seems pretty scripted, and we'll see if those words are sincere and true. And, I can't argue with the words, and if it's in the mind and the heart, then that's great. But if not, we're going to see. But, it sounds great. Canelo Alvarez does have to prepare because I think Daniel Jacobs is going to bring a different dimension of fight style that Canelo has been used to seeing. And, he is one of the bigger fighters that Canelo has faced. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue.
Well,
In fact,
Canelo just won a super middleweight title, so size isn't good. I don't think the size is going to be an issue. You remember?
Size shouldn't be an issue.
Remember, they used to say Triple G. Oh, Triple G is such a big heavyweight. Canelo's a big guy. You know, he's a stocky guy. He's still very young. But I agree with you. I think that Daniel Jacobs is going to bring a little more than what Canelo was used to. You know, we have to acknowledge the fact that Triple G either has aged or just was not fighting the fight that he's accustomed to. We do know that Triple G does not like body work, and Canelo Alvarez is very proficient at working the body. It's going to be interesting to see if Daniel Jacobs' movement and hand speed can neutralize Canelo Alvarez's body attack. Because quite frankly, Sal, I don't know if Triple G can't handle the body attack of Canelo. I'm not so sure Daniel Jacobs can. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. I don't know if he can. Daniel Jacobs, he's a big guy for the weight class, and I could see him right now working on uppercuts, trying to catch Canelo coming in and going to the body. But we're going to see Canelo trying to cut off the ring, nullify the distance, and work the body and work up to the head. Canelo, like I said earlier, he's been a much improved fighter than Canelo Alvarez. I still envision when he first fought Floyd Mayweather, and I thought he was so inexperienced at that point. And it's a different fighter today than what I saw back then. And of course, he's learned a little bit more of his craft. He keeps his feet underneath him. He does have leverage in his punches, and he does throw. He keeps busy. So I'll tell you what, I give Canelo Alvarez all the kudos for actually being one of the most improved professional fighters I've seen in a long time.
It's funny. I think he's improved a bit. I think that he's learned more about the game from Floyd, and he's tried to replace Floyd with himself as being the big draw and everything. I don't think he is, because I think one of the reasons Floyd it was so successful at selling tickets, if you will, and I don't mean to his live events, because he didn't sell them out. I'm talking about his pay-per-view. It's because there's a lot of people that purchased his pay-per-views to see Floyd lose. I think most people that buy Canelo want to see him win. They're his fans. But the one thing that has not changed with Canelo, and I think that Daniel Jacobs may be the guy that will be able to expose this lack of skill, which is not an easy thing to do, but all the top great fighters can do it. And that's hit while you're moving. Land substantial punches on the move, rather than, throw a couple of shots, then get out of harm's way, then come back in, throw a couple of shots. The one thing that Canelo can't do is seemingly let his hands go and land effective. He does connect sometimes, but land effective punches when he's on the move. What he has to do, and I've been watching this long before the fight that he did have with Floyd Mayweather. It was a weakness that you and I have discussed on this show many times, Sal. He seems to have to plant his feet in front of his opponent before he can let his substantial power shots go. And that's typically when he's in line to use a body shot to set up a more significant headshot. But that's only if a fighter is willing to stand in front of him. Floyd recognized that early on, and that's why he took that fight early in Canelo's career. I'm sure Floyd thought that he would be able to learn how to land a punch on the move at some point in his career, and Floyd, being the type of guy that wants to have the edge all the time, figured that he better fight this kid now. The truth is that Canelo has never learned to throw a significant punch on the move, and I think that that's his biggest weakness. And I think that Daniel Jacobs is in a position to capitalize on that if he himself can move and land significant shots, which I know and have seen Daniel Jacobs do in the past.
Great points, Bill, and I agree with you there, and that's why I'm so excited to see this fight, because I think they each have a unique style, and as we know, styles make fights, and this is going to be a great fight based on each of their styles. Now, I still I'll debate and I'll watch and rewatch. I really feel in my heart of hearts that Canelo Alvarez lost both those fights to Triple G. The second one more so decisively than the first one, but Triple G did take his foot off the pedal. Triple G did not fight his fight, and Triple G should have closed the show a lot bigger and a lot better than what he exhibited. So, did he lose a step? Is he losing something? Yes, he's aging. And yes, he didn't look like he wanted as much as Canelo on that level. But I still thought that he did enough to win both fights.
I'm with you. I thought that Triple G won both fights. But Daniel Jacobs got some quotes. He says, "I've never had it easy in my career. I've always had the long road. I've had to jump over hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. And when I step in the ring May 4th, this will be the last hurdle I ever have to step over because I will be declared the unified middleweight champion of the world. We've worked very hard for this moment. If you understand, boxing styles make fights. You can't automatically think that because he defeated Triple G, he'll beat me. Physically, I'm the bigger man. Triple G was bigger than him, and I'm bigger than Triple G. Rocky was the biggest fighter that Canelo has faced, but he didn't possess the skill set that I have, so that's going to be the difference." A true statement. We're all talking about how big Daniel Jacobs is. If you recall, when he fought Triple G, part of the game plan was to come in overweight, which he did.
He was like a light heavyweight.
There were no titles that Daniel Jacobs was going to be able to win that night when he fought Triple G. But this fight, he's going in with a title. My question to you, he's got the IBF middleweight title, and Canelo is holding the WBC and WBA versions. My question is, would it be worth it for Daniel Jacobs to win this fight, come in overweight, knowing Canelo's not going to cancel the fight, as long as he doesn't come in overweight where a commission wouldn't let it? But then again, Las Vegas, with the gutless, spineless piece of garbage Bob Bennett in control, they wouldn't do anything. But my question is, would Daniel Jacobs be willing to give up his belt for the win, or do you think that he's going to make weight and just try to focus on rehydrating?
Well, I think you give both sides of the chess table a good idea to consider. I don't think purposely he should come in overweight and lose that title by the scale. That's not being a professional. That's not doing what is expected and what is contractually agreed between two fighters. And being a professional, those are your obligations, your commitments, and that's what you adhere to. Now, that's when you sign the dotted line, you respect and you appreciate the rules and the laws of the game and your contract. With that being said, I don't think he has to do that to get a victory over Canelo. I think if they do have a weigh-in, I think he's got 24 hours to rehydrate himself. He'll come in 10, 15 pounds over the weigh-in, and he'll look like he's 175. He'll be a light heavyweight, and I think he'll be able to do what he can do. I mean, I really do. I think it's going to be a great fight, and I think Jacobs is going to look substantially bigger, and I think that Jacobs will do a great job. And I'm going to, I shouldn't say this, but I will. I'll be rooting for Jacobs.
I'll be rooting for Jacobs. I've lost a lot of respect
and
for
Mike Rell.
Right, the Cup Man. He'll get his thoughts. But I've lost a lot of respect for Canelo with the whole Triple G thing.
Me too.
But it's going to be interesting to see, because we know that Canelo has everything in his favor. This is the part where I say he's trying to copy Floyd. And I wonder if he will permit Daniel Jacobs, because if I'm Daniel Jacobs' team and I'm following what you just said, Sal, I want to come in as a professional. I want to win the titles. Therefore, I can't come in overweight. Otherwise, I'm not eligible to win the titles. If I'm Team Jacobs, the one consolation that I would have fought for, knowing that Canelo's going to win the gloves. He's going to win the size of the ring. He's going to win that he gets to be announced and come in the ring second and all those things. The one consolation that I would have fought, and I don't know if it's the case or not, but if I'm Daniel Jacobs' team and I'm fighting, I'm the negotiator for this fight, the one thing I would have made sure, assuming I want to win my title and be eligible, I would have fought for an early weigh-in, Sal, an early morning weigh-in, a weigh-in the Friday morning, 10 a.m., 9 a.m. weigh-in for the fight that's going to take place Saturday evening at midnight. I would have tried to do that to give my fighter a little more of an edge to rehydrate healthy-wise. Because let's face it, if Daniel Jacobs is that big and he dehydrates so much, sometimes fighters need more than 24 hours to rehydrate to get themselves back to 100%. How many times have you seen fighters that go overboard with dehydrating and they never gain their strength back? It's fight night time and they're still weak because they haven't fully gained their strength. What's your thoughts? Early weigh-in for Daniel Jacobs.
Would have been great. Would have been great if you gave that buzz in their ear, because you know what? That would have been a hell of a trade-off for Daniel Jacobs to definitely have in his corner. No pun intended. But unfortunately, I guess that opportunity's already come and gone. And you know how I feel about weigh-ins. I feel the weigh-in should be the same day. But that's just my old school.
We got, I'm going to give away, I got an email here I want to read. And as I read it and then respond to it, we're going to have another Super Chat bid here. Now on the line is an official Billy C. Talking Boxing with Billy C. t-shirt. I'll show you. This is the front. It's got the Talking Boxing logo. And on the back, we got the Talking Boxing stuff, whatever. It's black. It's a size large. So whoever wants this, right now the Super Chat is open. The highest Super Chat gets the shirt. So give us a Super Chat right now on YouTube. If you're watching live, the highest Super Chat gets the T-shirt right now. While I read this email and respond, whoever has the highest Super Chat will get it. Sal, this is from the other Alex T. He says, hey, Billy C., I tend to avoid all social media in regards to boxing. I find that for a sport that's been around forever, most people don't know much about it. But I clicked on a comment section recently on an article against my better judgment, and I don't even remember what the article was, but some fan, and I assume it's a young fan, was making an argument that Sugar Ray Robinson was an overrated fighter based on the number of fighters he beat who had double-digit losses. And this is a person, and he said, and then this person did one large cut and paste from BoxRec to prove his point. Alex says, have you ever heard someone say something so stupid that leaves you speechless? This is how I felt. I immediately start having a conversation in my own head about why such an argument is foolish, and I could go on for days, but I won't. You and your audience, I think, or at least I hope, understand why comments like this are foolish. But what really bugged me is that, sadly, I think that's what young fans think today. They look at a BoxRec and a guy's win-loss record and make a quick decision about a fighter's legacy, and that's just sad. And for your information to everyone, BoxRec is not 100% accurate, especially when it comes to the older fighters. I guess you can thank Floyd Mayweather. First of all, that's, people know I'm not a big Floyd fan, but that is true. Floyd did successfully market himself as an undefeated fighter. It worked for Floyd. Unfortunately, other fighters are trying to emulate it. I agree with Alex here, Sal. I think it's preposterous that people would go to a BoxRec or any record-keeping service and judge a fighter of how good he was or she was based on the amount of losses that fighter has, or the amount of losses that some of the opponents had. When you go back to that era of Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Robinson fought multiple times a month. Boxing was a trade. It was something that fighters did often. Today, a fighter will win Fighter of the Year award if he or she fights 4 times a year. In my opinion, Sugar Ray Robinson was the best fighter ever. So anybody that suggests differently is wrong. I got some cough drops if you need them. What's your thoughts on the email?
I do, and let me tell you, yeah, I share Alex's pain with that email, and I understand. And like you were just saying, boxing, especially back in that era, that generation, it was a trade. You were going to work every day with your lunch pail to a gym, and you were honing in on your skill. You were improving. And you know what? Back then, you fought almost every week. Back then, you were fighting everybody, and you weren't sidestepping. You were not avoiding people. You were fighting whoever they put in front of you, because that's how you got your paycheck. That's what you supported your family on. That's how you got by and paid bills. And to think that, one fighter such as Sugar Ray Robinson, who is so gifted on so many levels, he could do it all. To see him fight fighters that didn't have that same skill set, that were doing what they had to do to support their families, fight every week, and they didn't have the guidance, the management, the opportunities that fighters have today to avoid some fighters and to fight the ones that they could beat up on to build up their record. They didn't have that luxury. The promoter said, hey, you're fighting Kid Kowalski next Saturday night at the Polo Grounds. Be there. And that's it. And whether you were ready or not, you got a paycheck, and you took a beating or you gave a beating. And it's a whole different thing. It's not correct, and it shouldn't be even relevant or relative to this today on how they look at fighting.
No, but it's just, you can't just go by a record. You have to look at who each other fought. Yes. And to say that statement about overrated Sugar Ray Robinson, like I said, Bill, you and I can debate this whole series ongoing, nonstop. In my opinion, I feel for so many reasons, so many levels, that Sugar Ray Robinson was probably one of the world's greatest fighters ever, period. In my opinion, he was the best ever. I mean, the greatest of all time, really. I'm with Alex on this one, 100%. The only positive I can get out of that is the fact that at least you have a young fan that's following the sport and making a judgment. Whether they're not informed correctly, but that's the thing. This is the one sport that I feel that people should do a little homework on before they become a fan, or at least as they become a fan, look into the past a little. Unlike any other sport, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think like I said, with becoming a critic becomes a responsibility. Your credibility is on the line now. And do you do your homework? Do you do this? It's funny, not to get too sidetracked, but me, I'm going to go off on a little side footage here. We as restaurant owners are subject to a lot of reviews, and we're lucky when we get a whole string of great reviews. And if I look at my TripAdvisor or Yelp or this and that, we've got the majority of positive, great, favorable reviews. And I thank and appreciate everybody. And then once in a while, you'll get a bad review, not even relative to someone's experience in the restaurant. Could be something like they called in for pizza and it was a 2-hour wait. And all of a sudden, they got to write a whole 2-page book on why they were mistreated or why it wasn't good. And they give you 1 star, and it affects your rating, affects everything. So where I'm going is, it shouldn't be, when you're going to say something, and you should have a foundation based on your information that you're going to share in the public media. And doing your homework and doing your due diligence is a good way to have some credibility behind what you're going to say, and not just be somebody that wants to get out there and say something because you think you have a well-founded idea without really doing the research and homework, as most people should do.
Well, I mean, it's not. It's a catch-22 in my opinion. If you're a fight fan, you're starting to get into it now, and there's things that you see that you like. I would want to compare. If it were me, I would want to do a comparison. The truth of the matter is today. Today, the athletes are better. I think that the athletes, are better today than they were yesteryear. We eat better. Well, I think the fighters of yesteryear were tougher. I believe that they were tougher easily. Their training regimens were stronger. I think that the skill set of fighters today, because of the fighters of yesteryear, have learned to fight better. I hate to say it, but it's true. They've learned to box better than just go in and brawl. Not to confuse a runner with the sweet science. I mean, a fighter like Lomachenko, who stands right in front of you and is smacking the crap out of you, and you're right in front of him and you can't hit the guy. That's defense to me, not running away so that you can't hit your opponent and they can't hit you. So overall, I think that fighters of today eat better. They learn the sport better. They're more preserved because they don't fight as much. And with all of those things said from an athletics point of view, because listen, it doesn't have to be just boxing, Sal. We could turn around and look at baseball and football and basketball and say the same thing. The superstars, even in when I was a kid, the superstars in football wouldn't last at all with the stars today. The stars today are bigger, stronger, faster, all those things. But with that said, in the sport of boxing, the competitiveness, even though if you try to make an argument that the fighters today are better, which I don't overall believe, because I think that the frequency of fighters of yesteryear and the fact that they were just overall tougher makes them better, in my opinion. But if the fighters of today, with the skill sets that they perceivably have, and also the better diets that they have, and the steroids that they get to use, that they could. Oh wait, that's right. They're not allowed to use that. If they fought the tougher fights earlier on, we could be talking about the greatest fighters ever. That's the sad truth, Sal.
Well, it is. I mean, there's enough information out there today, based on the fighters of yesterday, that fighters could take a crash course, learn, and jump ahead of the pack. And I'm sure some have done so, just based on that. But, the old grind, the old, like listening to Daniel Jacobs saying, he's never had it easy. Well, guess what? You're a fighter. And part of your pride is because you've never had it easy. And guess what? You can rise to the occasion. You've always done it. And people that are having it easier along that way, when the when the rubber hits the road, they may not be able to deliver the way Daniel Jacobs can, or the way somebody who's been tested over and over and over again. There's one thing. You got your physical toughness and you got your mental toughness. When you're in the middle of a fight, you got to keep those blinders on and focus on what's going on and everything else. Let me tell you, you can't deviate, daydream, doing anything else. You've got to be able to just stick to business as planned and go and improvise, do what you got to do. And you're performing, and you got to perform at a peak level, not one time, not two times, but every time. And that's it. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt, or you're going to get beat.
Well, I just think that one of the reasons the fighters were better was the frequency of the fight. Mike Silver, and I should get a cut. Hey, Mike, if you're watching, he's been on the show a couple of times. You should give me a cut because I promote your book, which I never do. I like to promote my own. But Mike Silver wrote a book called The Sweet Science. What is it? The Arc of Boxing: The Rise and Fall of the Sweet Science, I believe is the title. And it's not that it was a captivating book. It wasn't like it was a captivating read or you couldn't put it down type of a thing. But the reason why I liked it and the reason why it really is so connected to our discussion right now is that he makes and backs up that very point of why fighters of yesteryear were better. And he cites, facts about the number of fighters that were registered, the number of fights that actually took place, and not just for the fighters, but for venues itself, and how many licensed boxers there were. He was comparing the 40s to the early 2000s. And he makes a very good argument of the reasons why, just, versus what we're talking about today, fighters being in better shape and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the bottom line is the lack of frequency of the fights is what hurts it. But in any event, thanks for the email. Another big fight coming up is Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia. I can't wait for that one. But also, you'll notice a fight poster up on BillyCBoxing.com for this bare-knuckle brawling event that's taking place April 5th in Wyoming. The fighters aren't big names, but it's interesting. We'll talk more about that. But I do want to talk, as we wrap up the show here, I want to give a little preview of some fights we're going to be talking about next week. There's some really good ones that are on the schedule. First and foremost, we're talking a lot about heavyweights today. Daniel Dubois is taking on Razvan Kajanu on ESPN Plus Friday, next Friday. And next Saturday, we got a big fight that I'm really looking forward to. Sean Porter will be defending his WBC welterweight title for the first time against Yordenis Ugas. And also Dimitri Bivol against Joe Smith Jr., Maurice Hooker against Miguel Lasperi, some fights and some other fights. So we're going to have a lot of fights to talk about next week. But Sean Porter, I love Sean Porter, Sal, and I know you do too. His record, 29 wins, 2 losses. His only 2 losses, and he did have a draw, was against Keith Thurman and Kell Brook. I would love to see a rematch with both of these fighters if possible. I think Porter beats them all. As a matter of fact, I thought you could make the argument that he won both fights, although the Kell Brook fight, I leaned more towards Kell Brook, but I thought that Porter beat Keith Thurman. He does have one draw against Julio Diaz that took place back in 2012. 29-2-1 with 17 knockouts, was never stopped. He's ranked at number 3 in the world at welterweight at 31 years old, and he takes on Yordenis Ugas, who's 23 wins and 3 losses, with 11 of his wins by knockout. He's never been stopped either with his 3 losses that came at the hands of Amir Aman, which was a unanimous decision loss. And then Emmanuel Robles and Johnny Garcia both split decision losses, which you could make an argument for him. He's 32 years old and ranked number 9 in the welterweight division. I like the matchup, Sal. What's your quick thoughts?
Yeah, I like it too. I like it very much. It's going to be a good one. I can't wait to see it.
You know, the thing with the thing that always happens with Keith, with Sean Porter, is the volume of punches that he throws, and this is a guy that's always in top physical condition. That's going to be the big test for Ugas. Yes. I also think that even though he's 31 years old, Sean Porter, he's a kind of guy that puts a lot of mileage on himself. You know, he cuts a lot. He cuts his opponents a lot because of his style. He looks like a former football player, which he was. Not that, he left, high ranks of football to box. He left at a younger age. But, it's a great story. Him and his father I think this is a big fight for Sean Porter. I think he needs to look good in this fight, Sal. And I think that a good showing here, a substantial win, meaning a knockout win over Ugas, I think sets up a big money fight for him in his next outing. What's your thoughts?
No, I think you're 100% right. And I'm a big Sean Porter fan, as you are, for a multitude of reasons. And he is the workman fighter. He comes to work. He goes there. He comes in shape. He does everything he's supposed to do. And and he's cleaned up his punches too. I mean, he threw more Scud missiles with punches. But you know what? He's honed in a little bit. He's got some good firing pins now, and he's catching you, and he's throwing 4, 5, 6 punch combinations. And what can you say bad about it? He's a gamer. He's a fighter. He's a throwback to the old days. I like him.
Well, he is, and I hope that he does well. Another fight that I'll be watching is the Dimitri Bivol against Joe Smith Jr. Fight in the light heavyweight division. Bivol is regarded as one of these young, upcoming fighters. He is a title holder, but a lot of people want to see him fight the top guys. Even though they seem to be avoiding him. Joe Smith Jr. He's got a puncher's chance, but this is a guy that I just don't think is in the same league, and I hope Coach doesn't stop watching us because of this, because of his connection with Joe Smith. But I think Joe Smith Jr. is a tough opponent, but I don't think he's going to pose much trouble for Bivol. What do you think?
Well, I think, as you just said, Joe Smith Jr., he's had some opportunities. He's taken some early opportunities, and he's tried to continue that path. I think he just misses for some reason. I don't know if it's a skill set or just getting over the next couple of hurdles. I like him. He always comes in to deliver, and I think it should be a good fight. And you never know. Yeah, any night, anything could happen. So this might be his night. We'll see what happens. I think it's a good matchup, and I think that Bivol is a good, accomplished fighter, and this is a great test for Joe Smith Jr. And I think what happens in this fight will designate the rest of his career.
I think you're right, and let me put it this way: if Joe Smith Jr. upsets Bivol, he's got quite the future financially and historically. But I also think that even if he goes the distance, which I don't think he will, I think that he sets himself up for some big paydays. The thing I am hoping that does not happen is that Bivol takes care of him in half the fight, in 6 rounds or so, and then Joe Smith Jr. becomes that opponent. Yeah.
You could say it's the game. We're mature.
No, I know, and I'm just.
But you're right.
I would be disappointed.
I'm a punching bag. No way.
But in any event, it's going to be interesting to see Daniel Dubois. Razvan Kajanu is coming off a couple of back-to-back losses. Was never anything special, but I do believe that Daniel Dubois needs to fight guys like that in the heavyweight division. So I'll be looking forward to that on ESPN Plus. So there's a lot of stuff going on next week, Sal.
Tell you what, it's just good news to see, Bill, going back from 2015. Looking at 2016, Bill, we should have a pretty good year. We had a good year 2015. Let's see what 16 turns out. 16, let's see what 17 turns out. 17, let's see what 18 turns out. And here we are in 2019. And I'll tell you what, the first quarter's not even over yet, and looks like we are in for a pretty good fight year. That's for sure.
But in any event, hey, listen, boys and girls, I appreciate all of the super chats. We will be continuing to get those out to you guys. We'll have some other stuff on the line next week. I still think I have some T-shirts. I got more games. I got some of my books to give away, and an authentic. And when I say authentic, I mean authentic. Triple G Canelo Alvarez 1 T-shirt that came live from watching the event at Sal's place that night, I managed to smuggle one out of there, still sealed in plastic, ready to go, and that's going to be another one that we'll put on the line. Sal, one of these days we got to do that again. It's always fun when we come and invade your restaurant.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll do it around Cinco de Mayo. Maybe we'll do it for this fight. I don't know. We did it for a lot less fights. I mean, we did it for quite a few, and including one of my former favorites, who I thought was really David Lemieux.
Yeah, I tell you, the next one, if we do another one, would have to be
a big fight.
It would have to be Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder. That would be the one. That would be the one. But,
maybe we get some of our friends down there. Maybe we'll get Bobby Ches. Maybe we'll get Vinny Paz. Maybe we'll get some. Maybe we'll get. I'd love to get Marlon back down here, and maybe we could even get. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I'm going to let it go at that. But listen, we want everyone to make sure that they tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.